price rises. So therefore people will not buy from them, people will shift to the organized sector. The third problem is that if you buy from the unorganized sector, then you have to pay the tax under something called the reverse charge mechanism, the RCM. So the cost rises further. So the organized sector will not buy from the unorganized sector. And one example of that, which came recently, was the pressure cooker industry. The pressure cooker industry chairperson said, we are very happy that we are growing at 24%, and in the next sentence he said, that is because the unorganized sector 25 units are not able to deal with it, and therefore the demand is shifted to us. So in other words, the organized sector will expand, the unorganized sector will contract, and the demand will shift. And therefore, in a sense, inequalities will increase further. So that's another reason why there's this problem. Then it was said that cascading effect will be removed. But we have such a plethora of taxes. There are 5 tax rates, 0, 5, 12, 18 and 28, and plus a surcharge of 15% on certain SIM goods. Now, in addition, there are 3 other rates. You have one rate for composition scheme, you have another rate for jewelry, and another rate for gold. So therefore, there are 8 rates. And when you have 8 different rates, okay, and some commodities are exempt, like for instance, food is exempt, and then you have special provision that you have petroleum left out, real estate left out of GST. Then what happens? Cascading effect reappears. So in other words, one of the prime things that was said was cascading effect will go away with GST, but cascading effect is not going away, and that's the other problem that I find that is there. Then there is another very important thing. Real estate is being left out. That's what the thing says. But actually real estate is not being left out. Under construction property still has to pay the GST. Fully constructed property doesn't have to pay GST. And you don't have to pay GST on the stamp duty. So therefore there's a confusion. In what way is GST being left out if under construction property still comes under GST? So there is so many different kinds of confusion that are there. And that is what is making the whole thing very complex. And I must quote the Arun Subramaniam Committee report. Arun Subramaniam Committee report said that calculation of the tax rate is an art, not a science. So in other words, you can fix the rates as you like, okay? And that's why there's such a multiplicity of rates. There's another reason for multiplicity of rates. You want to keep the basic things out, like education is out and health is out. But not all of education is out, not all of health is out. Some part is in, some part is out, okay? So therefore there's another complication there, that education and health, which is supposed to be out. Then food and other items are supposed to be left out. But indirect taxes have a very funny way of operating in the economy. Where you levy the indirect tax and where the tax is felt are 2 different things. So if you don't levy tax on, say, wheat, does that mean it doesn't bear any indirect tax? No, because it has to be transported. So if there's a tax on diesel, if there's a tax on trucks, then the price of the wheat will go up, and therefore there's a problem there. So in other words, there are a lot of complications about indirect taxes and so on. Now, given the time constraint, what I'll do is, I will stop there and only say that because the output has declined in the unorganized sector, and there are reports of Punjab, Haryana, Delhi Chamber of Commerce Industry, All India Manufacturers Organization, and other recent reports which show that the unorganized sector is declining. So even if you assume that the unorganized sector is declining by 10%, the rate of growth today is 1%, not 7%. The 7% is only the rate of growth of the organized sector for which the data comes regularly. But the unorganized sector data comes once in a while and you have to make certain assumptions. So in other words, what do we need to do? What we need to do is to go for an alternate which is simpler, which will not affect the unorganized sector, which is not a halfway house. So in my book, I have proposed a simplified GST, which will be levied at the last point, because this is supposed to be a last point tax. So why collect at every stage and then give input credit to it? So just levy at the last stage, and on the, what is the MRP, the final price that is labeled on the goods. So unorganized sector will be left out. That will not suffer the problem of the input credit. That will not suffer the problem of the reverse charge mechanism. So it's greatly simplified. And today you have roughly 4 billion entries every month, coming in because of the various complications. That will reduce by a factor of 100, So you'll have only 4 million entries, which computerization can then deal with. So I have proposed a very simplified version of GST, which is not a VAT, but which is an ad valorem tax at the last point. But let me make it clear that ad valorem at the last point is the same as VAT all through the chain. So therefore, tax collection will not fall from that. So this alternate GST may be worth considering. Thank you very much for your patience.
Not just criticize but also suggest an alternative. Professor Arun Kumar's view is that this tax is bad per se, unsuitable for India. There are many people who say the way the tax was implemented was a problem, the rollout was a problem, not the intrinsic nature of the tax. I would like to hear speakers express their opinion on this also. Can I ask you to start?
There's no mic there.
वहीं रखवा दें वहीं से
Mic has come here.
He's got the mic here.
I thought the mic was there.
Yeah, they moved it.
Well,